All right, guys, welcome back to Left Seat, Right Seat. We're here with I'm here with Jeff and Wayne. And
Yay!
Wayne, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're here to talk about.
Well, like you said, my name is Wayne. I had the honor and privilege of serving with these two guys uh, back
Many
in
moons
Fort
ago.
Bragg. Huh?
Many moons ago.
Yeah, just a couple. From when was I at Fort Bragg? From 2002 to 2005. Had the pleasure of deploying to Iraq for a year and a half with these guys. A lot of
So
great
much
things.
pleasure.
Yes. Spent 10 years in the Army. Got out April 2009. I was medically separated. 2010, I started working with veterans as a veteran service officer with the California State Council of Vietnam Vets of America. I did that for 2 years
Cool.
while I was going to school. And then I've been working with veterans ever since. So the last 10 years, I've been working with veterans. So the topic you guys contacted me about was helping veterans transition and navigate the VA.
Quick question. You said you went to school. Did you use your GI Bill? What'd you do?
I did a combination of two things going to school. So I started out with the GI Bill.
Okay.
Um, so about the first 2 years that I went to school, I started with the GI Bill and the Yellow Ribbon program. For those who don't know what the Yellow Ribbon program is, any school that you're looking to go to, one of the first questions should be, does that school participate in the Yellow Ribbon program? Usually the administrators won't know the answer, but they'll point you into the direction of somebody in finance. Finance will definitely know if they do or not. I would say don't attend a school that doesn't participate in the Yellow Ribbon program due to the fact the GI Bill only covers 80%. The Yellow Ribbon program picks up the other 20%. So I started going to school that way, and then at about a little over 2 years into my GI Bill, so like right around, I had about 20 months left on my GI Bill, and by then I already had my claim through. I was service connected. I was eligible for vocation rehabilitation, so I went and I applied for voc rehab. And then what they did there is once I was approved and I got into voc rehab, then they sucked up my GI Bill, and then they paid for it, and then I finished out school on voc rehab.
Okay.
Nice.
So basically what it was is I got all the benefits of vocation rehabilitation with the living allowance of the GI Bill.
Nice.
Wow.
So what it is
I've never heard anyone getting that before.
Yeah, no, they combined the two.
Cool. So then you started working as a VSO at that point?
So while I was going to college and getting my degree, that's when I was doing the whole VSO thing.
All right.
Okay.
All right. And
So
go ahead.
go ahead, CJ.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, with as a VSO, like, about how many like veterans did you actually help get through, or came through your way as you did it?
How many veterans did I help as a VSO?
Yeah.
That I don't know the number of, because as a VSO, you help in so many ways. You can help them filing claims, increase in ratings, vocation rehabilitation, aid and attendance, housebound. There's so many ways you can help. It's just, even to this day, I still get people that just come up to me and ask questions. There's like, oh, hey, can you help me out? And they'll ask me, hey, how do I contact the cemetery administration? Well, I'll just jump on the computer, Google all the information for the local national cemetery, and then just run it down to them like, hey, this is where it's located. Here's all. It's as simple as that. So there's no telling how many. I never kept numbers.
Right.
So from the time I do it, to this day, I'm still kind of doing the same thing.
All right, yeah. 'Cause I never dealt with a VSO when I got out. Like, we've heard many of these other stories that we say. Like, when I got out, it was a good luck and a slap on the ass, and then that was it. So I didn't deal with the VA until I had a hernia, like years later. Literally, probably about 5 years ago. So 10 years after I got out, you know, or 8 years after I got out, something like that, I finally went to the VA. So, you know, I don't know how. I mean, I guess it was a question on my ignorance because I don't know how and what a VSO does, you know. So
a VSO, I mean, in my Teletubby way of explaining a VSO is just simply somebody who is trained to help you navigate the VA system.
Gotcha.
Somebody who knows how to clear the muddy water. You know, they know how they're trained and they know how to navigate all three aspects of the VA. Because see, one of the big frustrations that veterans have when it comes to the VA is simply the VA is an umbrella term. So when somebody says, "Hey man, you need to go to the VA," I mean, which administration? There's three of them. So I mean, somebody who let me go to the VA, but you may go to the wrong one. So when it comes to the VA,
so Wayne, what are those three? I think okay, go for it.
So when it comes to dealing with the VA, and this will save a lot of people a lot of headaches. So when it comes to the VA is made up of three separate administrations. You have the Benefits Administration, the Healthcare Administration, and the Cemetery Administration. So the Benefits Administration is where you file your claims, and they're the ones to where if you're looking for any monetary value, like money, you want your money, anything to do with money, or any of your benefits comes from the Benefits Administration. The Healthcare Administration is just simply that. It's the Healthcare Administration. No more, no less. It's your healthcare. And then you have the one that nobody wants to talk to, and that's the Cemetery Administration, because that's the end of the road.
Right.
Well, I don't want to talk about that.
Nobody wants to talk to them. So, I mean, when a veteran's told, hey, go see the VA, I mean, one of the first questions is like, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Which one do I go to? And that's where your veteran service officer comes in, because he'll know where to go, who to talk to, what paperwork needs to be filed, and they can kind of put you on the right path.
Right.
Technically, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize it was 3 different branches. You know, I was just under the impression it was VA, right? Like you said, umbrella term, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't realize there's 3 separate departments. Yeah.
So
when you have a military member ETS, they're probably, I mean, more likely they're hitting benefits first to get that claim going.
Yeah.
See, and then that's something else, because so in my opinion, when somebody is transitioning, they're coming off of active duty, the first thing they want to do is they want to get their claim going. I would say that's the first thing that needs to happen, because that takes the longest.
All right.
I mean, they're doing a lot better. They're getting a lot faster. Because like when I got out, your average processing time was 18 months. Now I'm seeing claims come out in 6 to 8 months, 12 months, compared to in 2009, it was 15 to 18 months for an initial claim. So they're getting better. So that's what I'm saying. That takes the longest. But yeah, go sit down, get your claim going, fire that off. And then what you want to do is go to the Healthcare Administration and get that set up. Because, and I would say get that set up due to the fact, for whatever you file and whatever you're filing on your claim, now you can go to the VA and you can, get registered, get enrolled, get vested with primary care, because now you can start getting treatment for those conditions that are being filed, because that's also going to be medical documentation that's going to get pulled over to that. So file that claim, get it going, because that initial claim is going to be, based off of your military medical records. But you want to get into the VA, into the healthcare as soon as possible to start getting treated for all that.
Right.
Because they may or may not pull that over because you can, if you get something, so if you had someone on active duty that they didn't medically document, but you had an injury or an illness or aggravation of either of the two, but they didn't document it in your medical records on active duty, but you get registered with healthcare, and then one of the VA doctors, they're like, oh, hey, we're going to medically document that. Well, then they can take that and they can add that to their claim. And be like, no, look, here it is. Now it's medically documented. And then that's where they get it medically documented. They filed the claim for it. Even though it wasn't in their medical records, they know it happened. So they still filed a claim for it. But now, while that's being processed, they go over, they get registered with VA healthcare. It gets medically diagnosed by the VA. They can take a copy of that medical record, take it back to their VSO and be like, oh, hey, they finally, hey, I got it medically documented. And then they can do the paperwork, statement of support of claim, and add it to it. Mm-hmm. Now they have medical evidence to support that claim. But also at the same time, you start getting all that, you start getting seen for those conditions, because sooner or later down the road, you're going to do an increase in rating. That's going to be the medical document. That's going to be the medical evidence that supports that, to show that it's gotten worse.
Right.
So definitely coming off of active duty. And then not only that, but you want everything documented and diagnosed within the first 12 months, because that makes it easiest to service connect, because it's automatically assumed. So if you wait over 12 months, now you got to do a little bit more paperwork, and you got to prove that it happened on active duty, to where if you get it done within the first 12 months, it's automatic.
Gotcha.
So VSO is highly sought after then, or you really recommend a VSO for anybody?
I highly recommend VSOs. Because of all that right there.
Yeah.
I highly recommend VSOs.
Tough to navigate that by yourself.
Yeah. I would not, I don't tell anybody to do this by themselves. I always like, hey man, go get a VSO. You need a VSO. I highly recommend you get a VSO.
Gotcha. That's yeah. So I mean, like I said, I didn't even know what a VSO was until recently, and then even more just today. Speaking.
So let me throw this out there, because this is something else that I run into a lot with veterans. So VSOs are not VA employees. They're not federal employees. VSOs, so your veteran service officers, there's a lot of titles for them out there. There's district service officers, there's national service officers, there's post service officers. Every veteran service organization has multiple titles for these guys. But VSOs generally represent a veterans organization like VFW, AMVETS, DAV, American Legion, Wounded Warrior Project. There's like 50 veteran organizations out there that are accredited and can file claims on behalf of veterans to the VA. Then you have county veteran service officers, also known as CVSOs. Those guys, those are county employees. They actually work for that county. So like here in Sacramento, we have the Sacramento County Veteran Service Office. They work for the county of Sacramento. Then also here in the state of California, we have CDVA, which is California Department of Veteran Affairs. That's the state. Those are state employees that are accredited to file claims on behalf of the state of California. Let me back up to CVSOs. Those guys are normally accredited with about 3 to 5 veteran organizations that they can file claims on behalf of.
Okay.
Then you have the public contact team. Now, the public contact team is from the regional office, and those are actual VA employees. Those are federal VA employees, and it's the public contact team. You can also see those guys, like here in my area, they're at the regional office, they're at the main hospital for the VA, and then they come out to the community-based outpatient clinic 2 days a week. And it's exactly what they're public contact. So this is where veterans can go. It's like basically talking to those guys is like walking right into the regional office and talking to somebody, but they're known as a public contact team. And they won't file the claim, but they're a great source of information because that's the actual regional office. That's the best place to get information. They'll get you all the paperwork you need. They'll walk you through how to fill it out. They'll tell you everything you need to know about the process, the program, what you're trying to access, what you're trying to do. Then at that, if you want to go home, just fill the paperwork out and then bring it back to them. They'll make sure it's correct. They'll make sure it's good to go. And then they'll take it and they'll submit it for you. They just won't file it for you. And then they don't represent you.
Right.
So it sounds like it's relatively easy to find a representative to help you out this day and age.
Correct.
You just have to do your legwork, right?
You just got to do your due diligence. Just get online and Google veteran service officer or county veteran service, whoever you want to go see. You can just simply just Google veterans organizations, veteran service office, and then they all start coming up.
I can say this: when I got out 2004, on post, they sent us through. I don't know. I guess it was a VSO ring, right? So we all stood in line, and we got sent to either the MVETS guy, the VFW guy, or the Legion guy, and they were all in a room, and it was whoever was up next is who you sat down with, and I ended up with a VFW guy who did my claim, initial, right there.
Yeah, and
So,
I kind of had the same thing in 2009 when I was separating from Campbell. It was like in the back of the ACAP building. They had just a bunch of cubicles, and what you did, you just went over, you signed in, you sat down, and then whatever guy was available came on and said, all right, let's go. Because that's how I ended up with a county veteran service officer out of Nashville.
okay.
And he was the one that did my initial claim, and he put me under VFW.
And then CJ, you got out a year later and didn't have nothing.
I don't recall any of that. Honestly, all I recall was from the taps is
Just a haze.
yeah. Well, it was
A
like,
resume writing class?
yeah, the resume writing class. That was it. That was exactly all I remember. And then I went and I went and did my VA out processing physical. All right. So I had to get my medical records and then go to that guy, a civilian doctor off post, and get those.
Do you have a shaky finger?
Yeah.
Did he have a knuckle the size of your fist?
No. Luckily, it wasn't a flight physical. So
Dr. Super Knuckle?
you're right. Yeah.
With the SF ring on the SF ring on?
And honestly, all he checked out was what I was claiming, right? So my shoulder and my back at the time. I think there was, and one other thing, and he checked those things out, and that was it. Like he's like, all right, he didn't even check the blood pressure or anything. He was like, there you go. I'll send this report to the VA, and you'll hear back from them in another couple months. And then I went on my way, and that was it. Like, and I think honestly, he looked at my Army records, like the Army medical records, just to see if anything I was claiming was something that I actually dealt with when I was in the military. And of course they all were like on the record, so they all got approved, but it was just like, I got like 10% or something, I don't even know, whatever percent. And so that was it. And like, he checked my shoulder and my back, and that was pretty much all he did. And he was like, go away. All right, I'll never see you again, and I'll send your paperwork or my findings to the VA office, and they'll figure out your claim. So that was it. That was all I got. And honestly, the only reason I even got the VA thing is I went. It was one of the things we had to check off is go talk to the VA. So it was just like one person in like a office somewhere, and they were like, "Harry, go talk to." They set up my the physical. They set up my physical, and that was all I saw of them. Like I never saw them again, or never even heard or from anybody else in the VA ever again. Like that was it. It was just like, here you go. You have to get this checked off so that you can actually leave post. So you have to go and get that checked off, and then they sent me to the doc, and that was the last I heard of it. And then I think it was like 6 months later or something like that. A giant packet showed up at my brother's house in North Carolina because it was still under that address, even though I'd already moved back to California, and my sister-in-law had to like mail that whole package to me. So, and at first I was like, oh, I don't need it, just throw it away. And then she's like, no, this is your VA claim stuff. I was like, oh, I probably do need that. Yes. Please send it with.
A little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like that thing, right? So yeah, I was like, and that was it. That was all I heard about or seen from the VA, except for what I knew about talking to other veterans in California when I got back here, and what I seen on the news for the next 10 years, 8 years, whatever it was, until I actually needed to go to the VA for like a surgery, because that was it, And but luckily within that time, they had just revamped Long Beach. So instead of being one rinky-dink little clinic, it's now like a giant, like actual hospital. It's really, really kind of decent because I go there all the time now. But it's a decent hospital now.
It's funny you bring up Long Beach Medical Center. I was there for a week.
Yeah.
I did some of my VSO training down there.
Oh, nice.
That was in 2010.
Oh, so you were there when it was nice then?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
where it was like the staff is like half VA, half Long Beach Medical Center.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and I think they still have it that way, where it's like half and half kind of thing.
Yeah, all the medical students are over there.
Right. So
And that's where they're getting all their training.
yeah.
So I always ask people, like, what's your VA experience like then? So CJ, you sound like you had a pretty decent one.
You know what? I think had I have not waited for the revamp, like VA, because it was after a lot of things had, like, I just remember seeing on the news, like there was a lot of people cussing out the VA and doing all this stuff, and then when I went in there, it was after all that, and they went through like a whole, like the head of the VA got kicked out, like a lot of things got revamped and changed. So had I probably not waited those 8 to 10 years, whatever it was, I would have probably never went back to the VA, because from what I heard, Long Beach was one of the worst ones back in the day. And now, honestly, I'd say it's one of the better ones. Like I said, I had my hernia surgery there. It was great. I didn't have any issues. They didn't leave any scalpels or tools inside of me. So, which is one of the stories I heard from one of the older veterans about Long Beach a long time ago. Like they left like some tools in them, which you hear that from every doctor, hospital, anyways. But the reputation that the VA had once we got out, it was atrocious. Now I would say it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's definitely not your grandfather's VA anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And then when it comes to, and I'll be honest with you, when it comes to people's experience in the VA, their experience is just as individual as they are.
Yeah.
So the veteran creates their experience in the VA. So, I mean, in all honesty, if you go in the VA with a shitty attitude, and you're in there and you're just pissed off and you're yelling and cussing at people, or you're giving people attitude and being disrespectful, I mean, do you really expect them to give you top-notch treatment and care and respect?
Right.
I mean, you're not showing anybody respect.
There's a bunch of veterans working there, right?
Correct. I'll tell you, there's a lot more veterans working in the VA than anybody thinks anymore.
Right.
I would say it's at least 50-50 veteran to civilian. But I mean, like, I only use the VA. I don't use any civilian healthcare. I mean, I have Kaiser for my wife and kids, but I don't go. I don't use it. Everything I do is in the VA. So I mean, I've been using the VA healthcare system for 10 years. Yeah, I've had nothing but a great experience. I've had nothing but great service. I mean, I get well taken care of, but I mean, I just go in there. I treat them the way I would want to be treated. Right. And, I mean, I've yet to have a problem.
Right. Yeah. And I feel the same way. Like I
would say it's a great healthcare system.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a great experience there with the VA. And, you know, I think a lot of people say, oh, I waited in the emergency room or whatever for like a couple hours. I was like, have you ever been to a regular hospital?
Right.
You wait for a couple hours. Like there's no difference from what I think. From my experience,
I have yet to have any difference in healthcare wait times or anything with the VA as civilian.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. My wait times and everything else have not been any different, right? There was one thing, you know, that happened with me is I had a scheduled appointment for a physical or something, and the VA, they called me and they were like, hey, we have this person, he's got cancer. Can we slip your physical like a couple weeks? And it wasn't even that bad. You know, it was like a week, maybe like the next week. They were like, can we slip it so that we can see this guy? And I was like, yeah, like I don't have cancer, so take care of this guy, right? Like, so, and it wasn't like they just slipped it and then said, hey, we moved your thing. They called and asked me, they're like, hey, can we slip it just so that we can get this guy in? And I was like, yeah, great, go ahead. You know, so I've had no issue with the VA in that aspect, you know. So
Cool.
yeah. Cool. But so Wayne, there was one thing I wanted to ask you about, and it was like the medical separation. And I think okay, so two things. One is like, say you get out and you're already back in your home state, like it said it happened to you and Jeff, like, and they schedule your physical from where you ETS from, like for you it was Tennessee and you were already back in California. Like how do you go about changing that or dealing with that?
So you can do it one of two ways. And then once again, this is where your VSO would come in, mm-hmm. Having a VSO. So probably the easiest thing so you don't have to stress about it and trying to figure out who to call and who to talk to. Mm-hmm. So like for me, so when I separated from Fort Campbell. I signed out at the same time I signed my VA claim. So, and then as soon as I signed my VA claim, they mailed it in. They mailed it in to the Louisville to the Louisville regional office. And then I think I was at Fort Campbell for like another 4 or 5 days before I started to drive home. But about 4 to 6 weeks after I got back here, I got a couple of letters from the VA that hey, your CMP evaluations for your claim have been scheduled. Here's the date and times and location, and they scheduled them in Nashville, Tennessee. Well, I had already met a guy who was a CVSO, and so I went down and I talked to him. And I took him my appointment letters. I was just like, hey, how do I handle this? I was like, man, they scheduled my stuff. I was like, but I'm not gonna, what do I do? And he was like, hey, no problem. Oh, hey, he did up the paperwork, the whole 9 yards, and he sent it off. He sent it into the regional office for me. And basically, what it was is he did the paperwork, and basically it was, hey, the veteran is no longer, the veteran is no longer at that address, at that location. He's no longer in that state. He's relocated back to his home of record, Sacramento, blah, blah, blah. So what they ended up doing is they canceled those CMP appointments. I mean, this kind of made my claim a little longer, but they canceled those CMP evaluations. And then he requested to have my C file moved and relocated from the Louisville regional office to the Oakland regional office. And then to have all my CMP evaluations rescheduled here in Northern California in Sacramento. So that's one reason why I say always have a service officer, because they know how to do that stuff. Otherwise, what you would have to do is, if you're doing this yourself, all those appointment letters, they come with phone numbers on there saying, for whatever reason, if you can't make these appointments, here's the phone number to call. Then now you're calling those schedulers, you're calling those people. You're like, hey, I'm no longer in that state. I've moved back home, blah, blah, blah. I need to cancel those appointments. And then now you got to start contacting the regional office to try to request to get your C file moved. When a service officer, he already knows who to call, who to contact, what paperwork to file, and can get it moved a lot easier and a lot quicker.
Gotcha. Cool. That's great. Nice. And so that, I mean, I have no more questions about that. All right. So about the
answer is VSO.
Right. So you said when you're getting medically retired, or not retired, but when you're getting out on medical, you should have a VSO and a Pueblo officer. Can you explain like those two and how they work together?
Yeah. So what it was is, when I started my MEB process, which is my medical evaluation board. So basically, I got assigned a Pueblo officer, and I believe she was an RN, and she was the one that handled my medical evaluation board. She was the one that, she got all my medical records, she got all my stuff, and she's the one that built, developed, and sent my medical evaluation board down to the MEB, to where, I was at Fort Campbell, so it went down to Texas. I forget which Air Force base it went to, but it went to Texas. And then right along her doing that is where I got told to go to the ACAP office and to sign in to see a veteran service officer to start my claim. And she gave me a copy of my medical records to take to him. And then that's where, like you, Jeff, I went, I had my stuff with me, I signed in, I sat down, and then the guy came out and said, all right, you're next, let's go. And then he started, going through the whole claims process with me, and, what I needed and what he needed, what else he needed. And that's another thing why you'd want a VSO, is they know everything you need. I can't remember exactly everything, but they do, because, you're going to need your medical records. What I tell people who are going to file a claim, take any and everything you have that the military gave you, your driver's license, your DD-214, take everything, and then take everything the military gave you and go see them. And then let them tell you what they need, what they don't need, and what else you need to bring them. But then he started going through the whole claims process, and then there was a couple of medical examinations he wanted me to get that were different from what she wanted me to have done. But both of them, they were having me go in two different directions, which I was very fortunate enough to be on Rear D. So I had all the time in the world to do all this.
Right.
I know most 99.9% of those being separated don't have that luxury. I had the luxury of being on rear detachment to have all this done. But I would go, and then 90% of what they wanted me to do was denied. They wouldn't even bother seeing me. And then I'd go back and I'd tell them, and they're like, all right, no problem. That's all we needed. We just needed you to go over there and have them turn you away or whatever. Because there was one thing they sent me for. I went to primary care, and she's like, no, I can't do that for you. Your medical records are gone, and your primary care doctor has already deployed. So outside of the common cold and some Tylenol, there's nothing I can do for you. I was like, all right, roger that, ma'am. And I went back and told my Pueblo. And she's just like, I already knew the answer. I knew she was going to say that because I had your medical records. I just needed to annotate it that you attempted to do that. And that was just one of those things. And then theirs were things
You
that
feel like a ping pong kind of?
yeah. And then
Ping pong ball?
yeah. And there were things that my service officer told me to go get done at other places that I'd go and come back and be like, hey, they said X, Y, Z. And he goes, yeah, I know. I just needed to annotate it. And then they just kind of like played off of each other. And then at the end, man, she had everything she needed for the MEB for it to go its direction. He had everything he needed for my claim to go in the other direction. And they went.
Cool. Sweet. I think my only question in
That sounds
is,
like an ideal story.
Yeah.
Sorry, CJ.
And
No.
I'm the only person, I kid you not, in 10 years, I'm the only person that I know that was separated like that. Everybody else I've talked to that's been separated or medically separated, they're every story is unique and individual, and not a single one of them has been the same.
Yeah.
But I'm the only one that went that way that I've talked to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for that, I mean, can you explain what a Pueblo officer is? It seems like she's a medical individual in your case.
She is.
But...
Mine was an RN.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a registered nurse, and then all she did was medical evaluation boards.
Okay.
So she specialized in medical evaluation. You know, the Pueblo, they just do medical evaluation boards.
Gotcha.
And basically, they're just building and developing, and making sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and every piece of evidence is needed for the medical evaluation board.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they're clinical.
Cool.
They should be clinical.
Yeah. I mean, she sounded so.
I would say the only people I've come across that got separated better than me were those that were medically retired.
All right.
But then that's a whole different ball of wax.
Gotcha.
I didn't get to experience. I just got separated and kicked out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Medical separation and a boot in the ass.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think for me, that's pretty much it. All right. Because, I mean, you didn't want to talk about the.
I got a specific question, Wayne,
What's that?
we didn't discuss before, but what does a 0% rating mean?
0%?
Some people get 0% on stuff, and they don't always know what that means, because it doesn't get them any money, but it means something.
All right. So when it comes to being rated, you can be rated between 0 and 100, but then the other two things is knowing the difference between deferred and denied. So to your specific question at 0%, that means there was enough medical evidence to service connect it, but there was not enough medical evidence to add a dollar amount to it.
Okay.
So 0% is still a rating. You're still service connected, and that's still free healthcare for life for that condition at the VA. In the health, over in VA healthcare.
Gotcha.
But so 10% through 100% are all your dollar amounts. 0% means there's enough to service connect it, but not enough. But it wasn't bad enough, and it hasn't gotten bad enough to actually have a dollar amount put to it yet.
Gotcha.
So they know there's a condition, but so it would be, we know there's a condition, but you haven't lost any range of motion. So say you're 0% for your shoulder. Okay, they know you messed your shoulder up, but you haven't lost any range of motion yet. But they know that's going to deteriorate over time.
So the potential is you have a 0%, it does deteriorate over time. It gets reevaluated, and it degenerates, and then you get a different rating.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So that's where, like you were asking me about increase in ratings. That's where that would come in, because that's what you would do with a 0%. You're like, you'd be like, hey, I want to get that reevaluated. I want to do an increase. You'd go to your service officer and be like, hey, my shoulder's getting worse. I need to get it reevaluated. Then they're gonna submit the paperwork to do a reevaluation.
Cool.
Okay.
But then the other one that a lot of people ask me about is deferred. What does that mean? So let's say we'll just use the shoulder again. Let's say you messed your shoulder up on active duty, and what it is you filed it. You know, you put in a claim for your shoulder, but it comes back deferred. Well, what that means is deferred is there wasn't enough medical evidence to service connect it, not even at 0%. So it's kind of like, okay, we see there might be a possible issue, but we need more medical evidence. So we're going to defer that to a later date. Let's see if it gets worse, and see if he puts in for an increase in rating. Let's see if, there's some evidence of something there, but just not enough to service connect it. But maybe over time, they can do, you can get that reevaluated, and you can reopen that claim. And then denied is just that, is denied.
Gotcha.
Denied.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's cool. And did you want to talk about the e-benefits or no?
So when it comes to I'm not a fan of e-benefits at all. I'm really not. I have yet to see anything good. Me personally, I can log into my e-benefits right now and it'll show me my claim is still in process. I mean, I kid you not. Every time I have logged into e-benefits, it says in process. Mine has not changed. So I'm not a fan of e-benefits. I've heard of other people, they love e-benefits because they can go on there. You can print out your loan certificate. You can go apply for benefits on there. You can file a claim on there through the e-benefit portal. If you're just looking for, an award letter, you can get it from there, I think. I know a lot of people come into the public contact team for income verification, but I've heard them tell them, hey, if that's all you're looking for, you can get that right off the e-benefits. So I've heard of people getting their income verification right off the e-benefits. So I mean, that's one of those things. It's individual. I mean, for me, I'm not a fan of e-benefits, especially filing a claim on e-benefits. I've only, in the 10 years I've been doing this, I've come across, literally I can count them on one hand, veterans who have filed claims on e-benefits and got a rating.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
you don't have the VSO at that point, right? You're doing it yourself.
You're doing it yourself. And then the thing is, veterans like us, we don't know how to develop a claim. We don't know how to present a claim to the VA. We weren't trained to navigate the benefits administration. We don't know the key words and phrases and the little intricacies that are required to get a claim through and to get something adjudicated in your favor. I mean, basically you're going on there and, you're Teletubbying it right out of,
I'm going to adopt that phraseology, Teletubbing.
I mean, you're on there and you're using Teletubby terms and you're just like, hey, I got a bad shoulder. Hey, I got low back pain. But, there might be more to it.
Yes and yes. I have both of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you might put on there, hey, I got low back pain. When in reality, yeah, you have low back pain, but why? That might be a sciatic nerve, might be degenerative disc disease, there might be scoliosis, arthritis. I mean, who knows what's causing that back pain?
Right.
So, I mean, and then when it comes to doing a claim, you got to play Simon Says. The VA is not going to look at anything you don't ask them to. Mm-hmm. So that's where, if you got a bum left ankle, and you put on there, hey, I got a bum left ankle, but you also got pain in your knee because your knee, you're overcompensating and you're stressing your knee. Well, they're not going to look at your knee. You told them you had a bum left ankle. They're going to look at your ankle. They're going to look at your bum left ankle. They're not going to look at your knee. They're not going to look at your hip. They're not going to look at your foot. So, I mean, those are, you got to play Simon Says.
Yeah.
That sounds like what you were saying before. It sounds like when you got evaluated, they looked at what you said to look at. That was it.
That's all they're going to do.
That's it. Yeah.
See, because that's like back when I was doing claims, somebody would tell me like, hey, I twisted my ankle during PT on a PT run. Okay. You twisted your ankle. And then I would sit there and I would start asking questions, well, hey, XYZ, do you have pain here? Do you have pain there? Because now, let's say you sprain your ankle during PT. Well, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, you're overstressing and overstraining your left knee, but you don't realize it.
Right.
And then now you got a bum ankle and a bum knee. Now you're stressing your hip. So now you're overcompensating and stressing out your whole left leg. Well, see, that's where you would file the claim for the ankle, and then you would do the knee secondary to the ankle. Because the ankle caused the knee.
Right.
Right.
See, that's what service officers know.
Right.
Right.
That's what the veteran doesn't know. So, and that's why I always stress, VSO. They know how to get things done.
Yeah. Oh, sounds great. Yeah.
I think if there's any takeaway from today, it's, you should have a VSO no matter what. The answer is VSO.
Right. But now with the, as much as I'm saying everybody needs a VSO, I'll be totally honest. To find a VSO that cares and has your best interest in mind is like a needle in a haystack. A lot of these service officers, unfortunately, these are just old veterans that are retired and they're being VSOs as just something to do. So, to find one, to find a good one that, has your best interest in mind and wants the best for you, it's a needle in a haystack. Myself, the way I approach helping veterans is I know what I have and I'm trying to get everybody else to the same spot.
Right.
And I've been down that road. I've traveled it multiple times. I know, and I'm trying to make it easier for the next one. So, and I treat every veteran the way I want to be treated. The reason I got into doing what I do is because when I got out, I felt like the person on the other side of the desk wasn't telling me something. I felt like they were hiding something from me. So that made me want to get on that side of the desk. Yeah. And then lo and behold, yes, they were. I kid you not, man.
Okay, so do you feel like they were actually hiding something or they were just not knowledgeable enough?
I have learned, to be honest,
that's just a curiosity question for me.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. You got to be a pretty good judge of character. Some of them are hiding some things because they're lazy and don't want to do their job. They just bare minimum to collect their paycheck at the end of the day.
Right.
If they're a VSO that's paid.
Right.
So those guys are kind of hit and miss. But the majority, they just don't know. They're VSOs and they don't know the full extent of the benefits that we're eligible for or entitled to or we can apply for. And then, so I've come to learn it's very rare that they're kind of hiding things from you because they really, they might be having a bad day or whatever, for whatever reason, they don't kind of go above and beyond. Others, it's just, they don't know. But for me personally, I know what, like I said, I know what I've been through and what I had to do to get what I got. And now I'm trying to get everybody else to the same spot.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer, we have done something that at no time in our history of this country, more than 1% have ever done. And that's served this country.
Right.
At no time in U.S. history has more than 1% of the nation served. We're 1%ers. So, we wrote a check and put our names on the line to include our life for people we've never met, never known. Couldn't fathom to know. But we made that sacrifice. We signed up for that. We know what we did. We know why we did what we did. But you served your country. Now it's time for your country to serve you.
Right.
So
When are you running for Congress, man? Senate,
never.
whatever. Come on, man.
Come on, brother. You got to take over Sacramento
We
for me.
need people like you who'll do the due diligence.
So my whole and that's the thing is the like when I work with veterans now. I mean, yeah, I do have a tendency of going above and beyond. A great
It's a
website
testament
for
to you, man.
huh?
It's a testament to you. That's your work ethic. That's great.
Like especially with Vietnam vets, there's a great website. It's the Texas Tech University. They have gone out and they have compiled the world's largest virtual Vietnam library. I mean, it's utterly amazing. I mean, you can Google virtual Vietnam library, or it's Texas Tech. It's Texas Tech. University has it. It's amazing. I've been on there. I mean, literally, I've found daily reports from like the 101st and the 82nd Airborne on how many people went out on patrol that night, when and where they got ambushed, how many came back, how many were KIAs, how many aircraft went down. I mean, the amount of information and knowledge that those guys have compiled is amazing.
Wow.
To where I've used that to help veterans get service connected for benefits. I've gone on there and I've pulled down those daily reports, and they're like, oh, there's no proof of, because like for Vietnam, when you look at their DD-214, a lot of these guys, it doesn't say that they were even there. I've come across Vietnam vets that they were cooks and they got sent over to Vietnam, and when they got into Vietnam, they were handed a rifle and said, "You're with that infantry platoon. You're going on patrol." Well, hold on, time out, man. I'm a cook. Not today. Not on this tour. Move out, soldier. Hey, they didn't get a combat infantry badge. They didn't get no medals, no nothing. They went out, they did their job, they came home. But I've gone on that website. I pulled down like, oh, hey, here's the daily report. There's that guy's name right there. He went out on patrol. Mm-hmm. And then I would print it out, highlight it, send it in with his claim. Hey, that dude was there. And they're just like, service connected.
Wow, that's pretty dope.
That's a cool story, man.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything like that.
I got one better. I got another. This one's even better. You think that one was good? This one's even better. I helped a guy get eligible for healthcare through the VA using a photo. Wow. He was a Navy guy, Blue Water Navy. He had no documentation of boots on ground Vietnam. Had no Vietnam service medal, no Vietnam campaign medal, no nothing. Just he served in the Navy in that time frame. And he came to me and he was like, hey, these guys are saying that I wasn't in Vietnam. They won't, I'm not eligible. I make too much money. I'm not eligible for healthcare. Can you help me out? I said, yeah. I sat down and talked to him for a while. And I was just like, hey, you got a ship log, dock log, anything, any TDY orders, anything that shows you were boots on ground. He's like, no, I got nothing. I said, do you got photos? He goes, yeah, I got a whole box of photos at home. I said, bring them to me. So he came back a couple days later, brings me a box of photos. I'm going through these photos. It's cool as shit. This is stuff you'll never see in history books. And then he's telling me stories. And I come across a photo and I go, I found it. He goes, what'd you find? And I showed him the photo. He goes, oh yeah, I remember that photo. So it was him in his Navy uniform with a beer and a hooker from a bar and his arm around her. And he's there with a beer. But the sign right over his other shoulder said Cam Bay, Vietnam.
Yeah.
I used that to get him eligible for healthcare.
Because he was on the ground in Cam Bay.
Boots on ground, Vietnam. Damn. And I had a photo of him, boots on ground.
Nice.
It's stuff like that. That's what VSOs do.
That's pretty. Yeah, no, that's some good stories, man. Like that's some amazing stuff. Like,
I'm a new hero, Wayne.
Yeah,
I'm nobody's hero.
Well, you are that guy.
He's pretty happy he was eligible for healthcare.
Yeah, I would hope every VSO would just have that amount of dedication and
I know of one other. I know of a couple, but I told you, man, the one guy who trained me and taught me how to do all that, he's down in Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice.
Yep.
Have to call him. Well, you or him, but you know. Right. Like, I'm out of state, but I heard you're the best.
How does that work? Can you have a VSO who's not local
Yep.
work for you?
Yes, you can.
All right, Wayne. I'll remember that.
Right.
Yes, you can. If you come across somebody who is a national service officer, national service officer, it's just that. Anywhere in the nation, it's national.
Okay. Oh, Nice.
There was a time where I was a VFW VSO, but just for the post or unit, right?
Yeah, you're a post service officer.
You don't. All you can do is take information and send it to a real VSO.
Correct. That's what post service officers do.
So I had training, but I was like, I can't do nothing.
They know just enough. They know just enough to be dangerous, and to collect enough information to put that person in contact with the actual service officer.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Sweet. Sweet. All right. You guys got anything else you guys want to talk about, or?
Well, I'm sure that with Wayne's wealth of knowledge, we'll have him back on the show at some point again.
100%. Yeah.
Actually, real quick, let me see. No, I'll save it for another day.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how long you guys want to go.
Oh. We just let it roll, bro.
Oh man, I could literally sit here all day and talk about this stuff.
Right.
Oh yeah, I can. I can literally sit here and talk all day.
That makes you a good VSO, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, just unfortunately, I'm no longer a VSO. I'm off doing other things now.
I don't know if you know this or not, but you're CJ's new VSO and my new VSO.
Right, for sure.
And after people watch us, they're gonna look you up.
All right. Yeah. Dude, I say if you want to save it for another day, just write a note.
Like I said, I can sit here all day, not unless you guys got any other questions, comments, or concerns.
I mean, on the stuff we talked about today, no, like you answered all my questions. So
I think we got good information for today that people can run with at this point.
Yeah.
Then let me end it real quick with one of the things. Since we spent the majority of the time talking about claims, so when it comes to healthcare, I highly encourage everybody to get registered and enrolled in VA healthcare. For one, the less veterans that we get into the healthcare system, the less programs and services and the less funding we're going to have for other veterans. So there's a lot of veterans who sit there and they have the thought, that mentality and that thought process, which is very commendable, very honorable. I respect them for it. But they're just like, oh, leave it for those guys who truly need it. All right, well, if that is honestly your mentality in your thought process, then remember, the less veterans we get registered and enrolled in the VA healthcare system, the less federal funding we get, the less programs, the less services we can provide for those who do need it when they come home. Getting enrolled for VA healthcare is very simple. All you got to do is get your DD-214 number 4 copy, go to eligibility and enrollment at your local VA healthcare facility, whether it's the hospital or one of the clinics. Let them know, hey, I want to get registered and enrolled. They'll get you the application. Just go 20 minutes. Just fill the paperwork out. You don't even have to hang around. You can just drop it off and leave. But the whole point is getting registered.
Wait, can you clarify something? Do you
Yeah.
have to have a rating to register at the VA, the local VA?
No,
Okay.
you do not. And
That's
that's
what I
why I wanted to talk. If you guys got time to just cover healthcare real quick
Sure,
on
go
how to
for it.
get set up and registered and get going. No, you don't. See, the healthcare benefit, that's one of those benefits. You don't have to file a claim. You don't have to do anything with the benefits administration. You don't have to be service connected. Nothing. None of that. So when it comes to getting registered and set up with VA healthcare, The VA healthcare system is designed and set up for two types of veterans, service-connected and non-service connected. And when they say service-connected and non-service connected, it has nothing to do with your time in service. It has to do with, have you filed a claim and are you rated or not? So service-connected veterans, their eligibility is based off of their rating. Mm-hmm. Those who haven't done a claim, it's going to be based on household income. So now, but for those who are coming off active duty and they're going to be eligible for a minimum of 5 years, and it's for what they're filing a claim for. And that's kind of a 5-year window, to get the claim, to do your claim. Otherwise, it's based on household income, and it's different for everybody. So, I mean, just go in and go through the process. And when it comes to healthcare, there's 8 priority groups, and veterans don't know it. You can ask any veteran that's in the healthcare system, ask what the priority group is. They'll tell you, I have no idea. Don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah. But they're all in it. Everybody who's in the healthcare system is in a priority group. And priority groups, we have 1 through 8. So priority group 1, those are your veterans that are service connected at 50% and above. They have no copays in the VA. Mm-hmm. Priority group 2 are veterans that are 30 and 40% service connected. Priority group 3 are veterans that are 10, 20% service connected. Priority group 4 is a lot of your special circumstances, catastrophically disabled, POWs, and it gets into a whole bunch of other stuff. Medal of Honor recipients fall in priority group 3 now. But then those who are 0% and not service connected at all will fall between 5 and 8, and then it's all based on household income. So those who are 0% service connected, like I said, they're eligible for healthcare, but they're only eligible for what they're service connected for, because if they're, anything else they might be eligible for will be based on household income. But everybody else's falls on household income, and that's 5 through 8. But like I said, you don't have to have a claim on file. You can just simply, hey, go in, be like, hey, I just want to get registered and enroll in the VA healthcare system for whatever reason. And then, like I said, all you got to do, fill out the application, copy of your DD-214 number 4 copy. Like I said, you can sit there and wait for them to process it, and you can find out right then and there if you're eligible or not, or you can just drop it off and leave, and you'll get a letter in the mail within a week letting you know if you're eligible or not. But I would highly encourage everybody to get registered.
Yeah, I think most people don't know that even if you don't have a rating, you can go register.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Even if you're not eligible for healthcare, go get registered anyways, because sooner or later you may or may not, if you end up deciding to file a claim, once you file a claim and you get rated, well, then the registration part is already done. You just got to bring your award letter back to the eligibility office, be like, hey man, I finally got rated. And then it takes them 5 minutes. They update it real quick. Now you're good to go.
Ooh. For example, I know that some Vietnam guys down at the VFW Legion, they, Agent Orange stuff finally came through on some of those guys, right? So, they got a rating like 10, 20%. In 2010, the Niemer case finally got adjudicated in the favor of the Vietnam veterans, and that brought back that whole generation. Right. So some of those guys might have got like 10 or 20%, but it went back a long ways. And
in fact, one of the stories that was told to us by the lead national service officer out of St. Petersburg, Florida for VVA, he told us a story about a guy who, he's a Vietnam vet, served over in Vietnam, got out, filed his claim, got denied, tried to fight it for a year or two. He was like, I'm done. And then he came across this guy like 40 something years later. He was, this NSO was talking to the guy, and he was just like, hey, if you don't mind, can you sign me as a representative, your PO, as a power of attorney, and can I try and, look back into your claim and see what I can do for you? He's like, whatever, man, go ahead. Gave him the power of attorney to go look into his claim. That guy got him service connected. 40 years later, he got a $650,000 paycheck.
Lord.
Damn. All right.
I've only heard of 4 people get 6-figure payouts in the 10 years that I've been working with veterans. I've heard of 4. That was one of them.
Man, that's great.
But you never know down the road, like what we're talking about, you know, people exposed to like burn pits or something, that could 40 years down the road become something that is now in the VA's, you know, wheelhouse or something like that. And I'm just using that as an example because I don't know much about it right now, but you know.
But yeah, I mean, the VA it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. There's always new stuff coming out. Just so everybody knows that comes across this video, everything that I've talked about, it has been my personal experience, and I hope the big takeaway from it all is basically just information to go ask questions in your local area, because everywhere is different. Each healthcare system is different. Each state, each county, each system, everything is different. There's things, you know, I got people all over the country that I talk to, like you guys, you know, you in LA, you in New York. I got a buddy in Maine. I got people that I talk to in Florida, Kansas, Texas, Arizona. And there's things where I'm like, hey, have you tried this? And they'll go try it and they'll come back and they'll be like, dude, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't even entertain the thought. I mean, or it's like, no, that doesn't work out here. Yeah, I tried that once, man. I'm like, really? Because that worked for me here, but it didn't work for somebody in Kansas. I mean, it's just, the big takeaway is the information that I provide is a lot of just to give you some food for thought, and to go contact your local VA reps, your VSOs, your CVSOs, and just go ask. And be like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? You know, that's what I hope the big takeaway is.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, just the perfect example, I can take 2 veterans. I can take both of you guys right here, right now. I can do a claim for both of you guys. I mean, literally identical for the exact same condition, written up the exact same way, word for word, letter for letter. The only thing that would be different would be your guys' personal information. And then send it into the exact same regional office and have you guys evaluated at the same facility by the same doctor. But guess what will come out of that? 2 different ratings. Because what CJ did inside his evaluation is going to be different than what Jeff did inside his evaluation. That's where you get 2 different ratings. So this isn't cookie cutter stuff. It's not one size fits all. I mean, and that's where you get 2 different ratings, because it's 2 different people. You guys answered the exact same questions 2 different ways. You guys did the range of motion two different ways. And that's where CJ might get 20%, where you might get 40%. I mean, it's just that simple. Yeah. So, and that's why I say a lot of this is, you know, just food for thought, you know, just information to arm yourself to ask questions. Because without asking questions, man, you'll never know.
All right. Yeah, crazy.
Well, thanks for your time, Wayne. And it's been very valuable, I think.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime.
Yeah.
As always, if we help one person, we're doing a good thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure. That's what I say. Yeah, I mean, if you, I'm sure you've got a ton more information for us, so we'll probably.
It all gets unlocked via questions.
Right.
Well, then probably the best thing you can do is that you'll know when you ask the right question is when I start going on when I just start rolling, and it's just I can sit here and, you know, dude, I just get on my soapbox and then I go. So you're like, oh, okay, I asked the right question.
Yeah. Huh? Sounds good. Cool. Well, good. Well, guys, that's all the time we got for today. Thank you, Wayne, for all the information. Appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Left Seat Right Seat. If you liked what you heard, just go ahead, hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. And come back next week for another episode. And also follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all your other podcast venues. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you again later. Bye.
See ya.